The signal was old. Older than the war. Older than the treaties. Older than the lie. It pulsed through interstellar dark like a dying heartbeat. SOS. Not in any recognized Galactic Council frequency. Not in the clean, sterilized diplomatic code of the core worlds. No, this was raw. Analog. Primitive. Human. The Council analysts almost deleted it. Probably a relic beacon. One avian clerk muttered, mandibles clicking in boredom. Their species barely achieved FTL before extinction. Extinction. That was the official record. 200 cycles ago, the fringe colony world Carthos Prime had been pacified, after its human settlers allegedly violated mining quotas and refused taxation. The Council's enforcers had sterilized the surface from orbit. Officially, no survivors. Officially, humans were gone. But the signal didn't care about official records. SOS. 3 short. 3 long. 3 short. Across the void, in the dead regions where star maps simply faded into. Here be monsters. Something answered. It wasn't a transmission. It was movement. The first Council patrol to investigate vanished. The second transmitted partial footage before being torn apart. On every core world, citizens watched in stunned silence as the recording played. Blackness. Static. Then, ships. Not sleek Council cruisers with elegant energy sails. Not crystalline war barges of the Vair Dominion. These were slabs of steel and scar tissue. Hulls layered with patchwork armor. Engines that burned dirty and bright. Weapon ports like missing teeth in a broken grin. There were hundreds. Thousands. A voice crackled through the dying patrol's comms. Low. Gravelly. Amused. You boys finally got our message. The patrol captain stammered. Identify yourselves in the name of the Galactic Council. A human face filled the screen. Older male. Scar cutting from temple to jaw. One eye replaced with something metallic and faintly glowing. You sterilized our world, the man said calmly. That was rude. The transmission cut to external view. The patrol fleet fired first, beams of coherent plasma lancing into the darkness. The human ships didn't dodge. They accelerated. Council analysts later described what happened as tactically impossible. The human vessels rammed. They didn't strafe. They didn't retreat to range. They closed distance like predators who preferred to smell their prey. Railguns thundered. Missiles swarmed. Boarding pods slammed into hull plating with the elegance of a sledgehammer. One human transmission pierced through the chaos. All batteries free. For Carthos. The patrol died screaming. The council chamber erupted into panic. They were extinct. They were primitive. They were compliant. A reptilian counselor hissed. We call the colony. Not a civilization. From the chamber's central holodisplay, the ancient SOS signal pulsed again. Analysts finally decoded the rest of it. It wasn't just a distress call. It was coordinates. Coordinates pointing beyond charted space. Into the graveyard belt, a lawless expanse where pirates, outcasts, and failed states went to die. Or hide. The humans hadn't gone extinct. They had gone feral. Out in the belt, aboard a flagship named Vengeance of Carthos, Admiral Elias Kane watched Council space bloom on tactical screens. He was 58. Graying. Tired in the way only men who have buried too many friends can be. A younger officer shifted nervously beside him. Sir, they're broadcasting surrender terms. Kane snorted. Already? They claimed the sterilization was a miscommunication. They're offering reparations. Reparations, Kane repeated. He leaned back in his chair. Did reparations regrow our oceans? No, sir. Did they bring back my wife? Silence. Did they bring back my son? The officer swallowed. No, Admiral. Then they can keep their damn credits. He stood, joints stiff from old gravity wounds. Open channel. The council chamber appeared on screen, species of a dozen empires staring down at him. A prim, feathered diplomat spoke first. Human Admiral. We regret the unfortunate events on Carthos Prime. The decision was made under incomplete intelligence. Kane smiled thinly. You mean you thought we wouldn't hit back? The chambers shifted uncomfortably. A bulky counselor growled. We were out system when you glassed Carthos. Kane continued. Survey mission? Slow FTL prototype. We came home to a planet of ash. His voice didn't rise. That made it worse. So we did what humans do best. We adapted. Behind him, the camera panned across the bridge. Humans of all ages. Scars. Prosthetics. Tattoos marking lost loved ones. You think we hid in the graveyard belt because we were afraid? Kane asked softly. No. We went there because that's where the monsters live. He grinned. And we learned. Transmission cut. Moments later, Council frontier outposts began to burn. The humans didn't invade like conquerors. They struck like raiders from a forgotten age. Supply lines vanished. Shipyards exploded from internal sabotage. Entire fleets found their targeting systems hacked by viruses written in archaic Earth code, old languages resurrected like curses. Who fights like this? A council general demanded as reports flooded in. An intelligence officer answered quietly. Deathworlders. Humanity had once been categorized that way, originating from a planet with unstable weather, predators, disease, and constant geological violence. The council had seen it as a curiosity. They hadn't understood it was training. On the third day of the counteroffensive, the Vair Dominion deployed its Pride, a planetary siege platform capable of cracking continents. Its target, a human staging base carved into an asteroid. The Dominion commander broadcast confidently. Surrender and your species may yet be spared. Inside the asteroid, human marines loaded kinetic slugs the size of cargo pods. A grizzled sergeant spat tobacco into a recycler. They still don't get it, he muttered. Get what? A young private asked. We already died. When the siege platform fired, the asteroid base shattered, revealing itself to be hollow. A decoy. Behind the Dominion fleet, space folded. Hundreds of human ships emerged from micro-jump drives jury-rigged and wildly unstable. Surprise, Admiral Kane whispered. They attacked from point-blank range. Boarding parties tore through corridors in brutal close-quarters combat. Humans fought with ballistic rifles, plasma cutters, even blades when ammunition ran dry. Over open comms, a Marine laughed as he tackled a Vair officer. You should have left us in the dirt. The siege platform fell. Its explosion lit the sector like a second sun. Back in the council chamber, fear turned into something worse. Understanding. The SOS had not been a plea for rescue. It had been a beacon. A rallying cry sent decades ago, bouncing between stars until it reached every human survivor scattered across pirate crews, fringe colonies, even council labor camps. Humans the galaxy thought broken. Humans who had been waiting. The Armada wasn't just Kane's fleet. It was all of them. And they were coming. The fourth day of the war began with silence. No skirmishes. No emergency transmissions. No screaming distress calls clawing across subspace. That terrified the Council more than the bloodshed. In the high chamber above the core world of Thelene, emergency lights bathed polished marble in a nervous red glow. Generals argued in overlapping dialects. Economists projected catastrophic trade collapse. Politicians blamed one another with venom usually reserved for enemies. They're pirates! One counselor barked. Undisciplined barbarians! A tactical display flickered to life. Across 12 sectors, human fleets had repositioned overnight with surgical precision, cutting hyperspace corridors, isolating strategic worlds, leaving civilian population centers untouched. A reptilian strategist went quiet. These are not pirates, she said slowly. This is coordinated doctrine. On another screen, Admiral Elias Kane's face appeared again, uninvited. You've noticed, he said mildly. Good. Security scrambled to sever the link. They failed. You see, While you were congratulating yourselves on eliminating us, Kane continued, we were studying you. He gestured off-screen. Data cascaded behind him, council fleet formations, political hierarchies, trade dependencies. You built an empire on bureaucracy, on predictable responses, on overwhelming force against weaker species. His metal eye glinted. We grew up on a planet where the weather tries to kill you before breakfast. The feed cut, replaced by a simple message. Phase 2. Out on the frontier world of Marath, a council garrison scanned the sky nervously. Nothing on sensors, a junior officer reported. No warp signatures. No energy spikes. The commander frowned. They don't fight fair. Stay alert. Minutes later, the planet's orbital elevator detonated from within. Explosions rippled along its length like fireworks in reverse. The tether snapped, crashing into the ocean with apocalyptic force. The commander stared in disbelief. They weren't in orbit. A transmission hijacked every frequency. A woman's voice this time, dry, amused, older. You outsource your security to automation, she said. Bad habit. Her name was Captain Mara Iqbal. Former corporate security. Widow of Karthos. Your systems were never designed to handle grief, she added softly. Then the planetary defense grid turned on its own garrison. The humans weren't just attacking fleets. They were dismantling confidence. Council citizens who had once viewed humanity as an unfortunate footnote now saw grainy footage of armored soldiers advancing through smoke with terrifying discipline. They saw Dominion shock troops routed by humans wielding projectile weapons the Council had dismissed as obsolete. Ballistics. Why are they using chemical propellants? A baffled VAERS scientist demanded during a live analysis. A human sniper's round punched through the viewport behind him. Because railguns can be jammed. Because plasma can be dispersed. But a chunk of metal moving at obscene velocity still ruins your day. Admiral Kane stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance of Karthos, watching debris from a shattered council battlegroup drift past like metallic snow. Captain Iqbal joined him. You're making them desperate, she said. Good. Desperate prey bites. Kane's jaw tightened. Let them. Behind them, a young communications officer hesitated. Sir, we intercepted something. Kane turned. On the holodisplay, a classified council directive flickered into view. Issued hours before the war began. Contingency, Species Eradication Protocol, Humanity. Signed by a unanimous council vote. Iqbal exhaled slowly. They were going to finish the job. Kane nodded once. They thought we were a mistake. A dangerous anomaly. He looked back at the stars. Time to prove them right. The Council's response came on the 7th day. They unleashed the Axiom fleet. Reserved for existential threats. Never before deployed in full. Titan-class dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Energy shields capable of withstanding stellar flares. Weapons that could strip atmospheres in hours. Across human channels, silence fell as sensors registered their approach. A young Marine aboard a battered frigate whispered, That's not fair. An older gunner chuckled darkly. Kid, fair left the room when they glassed our planet. Admiral Kane addressed the Armada. No speeches, he began. No glory. You all know what they did. Images of Karthos, oceans boiling, cities turned to shadows, flickered across screens. They believe size equals strength. His voice hardened. Let's educate them. The first clash between the Armada and the Axiom fleet shook 3 star systems. Human ships didn't form neat battle lines. They scattered. Dreadnought cannons fired, obliterating decoy vessels. Then space itself betrayed the Council. Human engineers had spent decades in the graveyard belt experimenting with unstable jump nodes. Tiny, violent folds in space that conventional navies deemed too dangerous. The humans used them like landmines. A Titan dreadnought surged forward, and half its hull vanished into a microfold, sheared clean off. Another ship's shield harmonics were flooded with chaotic frequencies broadcast from dozens of sacrificial human corvettes. Who fights like this? A council admiral screamed. On open comms, a human pilot answered between ragged breaths. Farmers. Mechanics. Teachers. You killed the soldiers first. He rammed his crippled ship into the dreadnought's weapon core. The explosion now shone a star. But the Axiom fleet adapted. Their firepower was monstrous. One by one, human ships fell. Captain Iqbal's cruiser took a direct hit, decks venting to vacuum. She dragged herself to a console, blood floating in zero-G. Elias! She rasped over a private channel. They're breaking us. On the Vengeance, alarms howled. Kane watched casualty numbers climb. He closed his eyes briefly. Then he gave the order he had sworn never to give. Release the Black Archive. Around the fleet, sealed data vaults unlocked. Coordinates transmitted to every human vessel. Not council targets. Not military installations. Core worlds. Civilian infrastructure. Planetary energy grids. Iqbal's eyes widened. Elias, that's billions. They signed our extinction, he replied quietly. They don't get moral high ground. For a heartbeat, the Armada hesitated. Then Council core systems went dark. Power grids collapsed. Orbital docks failed. Financial networks erased in cascading cyber warfare that made previous attacks look like pranks. The message was clear. We can end you. We just haven't. In the high chamber, lights flickered. Emergency generators hummed weakly. The same feathered diplomat who had once offered reparations now looked small. They're holding back, he whispered. On screen, Kane appeared one final time. You wanted extinction? He asked calmly. Careful what you normalize. Behind him, battered human ships regrouped, engines still burning. We can finish this, he said. Or we can negotiate like adults. And this time, we write the terms. The chamber was silent. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council began to understand what humanity had become. The 8th day of war opened like a tomb. The Axiom fleet, massive beyond imagination, moved with precision no human ship could hope to match. Its dreadnoughts dwarfed moons. Its weapon systems could sterilize continents. Its commanders believed themselves untouchable. They were wrong. Admiral Kane didn't gather his fleet in lines or formations. He scattered them across 3 systems like shadows in a storm. Each human vessel was a bullet, each maneuver a predator's calculation. Remember, Kane said over open comms, his metallic eye glowing in the dim light of the bridge. We're not here to fight evenly. We're here to survive, and then to remind them why they fear us. At that moment, in the core world sector of Zelker, human sabotage teams infiltrated orbital stations, drone factories, and power cores. Within minutes, automated defense arrays turned on their operators. Council ships were stranded in orbit, engines offline, their dreadnoughts immobilized. A young human lieutenant whispered to his AI co-pilot. We're just ghosts? Ghosts and wolves, the AI replied. Predators only fear what they cannot see. On the battlefield, the first Titan-class dreadnought engaged. Its massive weapons bore down on a squadron of human frigates. Officers expected them to scatter, to die gloriously, but the frigates didn't flee. They divided, weaving through the dreadnought's firing arcs, appearing to vanish and reappear at impossible vectors. From inside the dreadnought, Council officers screamed as hull integrity warnings exploded across consoles. Every shot from their main cannon seemed to miss by meters, by kilometers. Kane's voice echoed over tactical channels. Fire when it counts. Don't waste. Hit the critical points. Remember Carthos. Minutes later, one dreadnought's energy reactor erupted in a cathedral of fire. Radiation flares cut across space like a new sun being born. The Council fleet panicked. Their vast formations became chaotic. Meanwhile, Captain Mara Iqbal led a boarding party aboard the second Titan dreadnought. Unlike Kane, she preferred the old ways, rifles, knives, and relentless aggression. Human Marines rappelled down the hull, cutting into airlocks, bypassing shields. Council soldiers assumed the whole breach was the result of a kamikaze ship. They weren't prepared for human infantry. Iqbal moved through corridors drenched in smoke and sparks, yelling commands, laughing at the chaos. "You thought size mattered," she shouted. "We've been small, but we've never been weak." Inside the bridge, council officers scrambled. Mara's team stormed in, disarming shields, disabling weapons, and opening the airlocks. The dreadnought began to drift helplessly as internal explosions gutted engines and weapon cores. A council admiral attempted to negotiate. "Cease, human! We offer surrender!" Iqbal laughed, spitting blood into zero-G. "You had your chance." Kane's strategy unfolded elsewhere. He had anticipated the council would deploy a countermeasure, a new experimental weapon that could collapse entire star systems in seconds. The humans didn't hide. They baited. A single battered frigate approached the experimental platform, dragging sensor readings into falsified coordinates. Automated systems identified it as a high-value target. Missiles launched. The frigate spun like a leaf in a hurricane, dodging impossibly, drawing fire away from other human ships. Then, microjump nodes activated. Entire squadrons appeared behind the Council's flagship, tearing into its unshielded flanks. Explosions lit the void like fireworks for the dead. One human pilot radioed back, laughing manically. "Did you miss us?" Back on the vengeance of Carthos, Kane watched it all unfold. Casualty reports scrolled past, but the human spirit held. Each death was a reminder of what they were fighting for, not just survival, but vengeance and justice. The Black Archive, released hours earlier, proved decisive. Every human ship now had coordinates, every weakness, every vulnerability of the Council fleet mapped. What the Council thought was chaos was actually a symphony of violence orchestrated with precision. Core worlds burned. Supply lines collapsed. Intelligence networks fractured into digital ash. For the first time, the Council realized the humans weren't just retaliating, they were rewriting galactic power. Then came the twist. Kane received a transmission, not from his fleet, not from the Council, but from deep space signals that had remained undetected until now. It was the original Carthos survivors. Children who had grown up in exile, scavenging in the graveyard belt, living among pirates, mercenaries, and outlaws. They had become legends among fringe systems. They were the ones who had transmitted the SOS decades ago. "Admiral." The voice was young yet hardened. "We've arrived." Entire battle groups emerged from hidden jump points. Fleet after fleet, ships long thought lost or destroyed, joined Kane's armada. The Council realized, too late, that the SOS was never a plea. It was a beacon. It was a summons. Thousands of human vessels converged simultaneously from sectors unmonitored by the Council. Entire fleets materialized from the void, tearing into Council lines with precision and ferocity. The galaxy, for the first time, felt what humanity really meant when underestimated. The Council flagship, massive and imposing, attempted to retreat. Kane anticipated this. He ordered simultaneous microjumps into 3 converging positions around the vessel. It was trapped. The humans struck from every side, leaving no escape. The final moments were broadcast across subspace to every Council member. The flagship erupted, not with a whisper, but a roar. The void around it glittered with metal fragments and cascading explosions. Kane's voice went over open comms. Calm, cold, and merciless. "This is what happens when you try to erase us. Remember Carthos. Remember this." As the Council reeled, shaken to its core, Kane's eyes met Mara Iqbal's through the display. Both smiled grimly. The battle was won, but the war had revealed something far darker. Humanity's genius for survival was matched only by its capacity for vengeance. And now, the galaxy would never forget the name of those who had returned from the dead. Silence fell over the core worlds. Not the calm of peace, but the trembling hush of those who had stared into the face of something they thought extinct, and survived. The Galactic Council had surrendered. Not one of their fleets remained intact. Not a single command structure functioned as intended. Humanity had rewritten the rules of the galaxy, and no one could deny it. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the Vengeance of Carthos, looking out at the stars strewn with the wreckage of Titans. Thousands of human ships, battered, scarred, yet alive, floated in a shattered formation that was more ritual than tactic. Captain Mara Iqbal approached him, voice low. "Is it over?" she asked, though she didn't sound convinced. Kane shook his head slowly. "No. The fighting, maybe. But the consequences, they're just beginning." They watched as core systems flickered back to life, one by one. Human teams were already deploying stabilization protocols, preventing famine, managing radiation leaks, and controlling rogue AI left operational by the Council. Humanity could have annihilated them completely, yet Kane had restrained them. Only just. "Why hold back?" Iqbal asked. Kane's metallic eye glimmered faintly. "Because we're not monsters. Not yet. That line, once crossed, it's gone forever. We teach them to fear us. That's enough." Behind him, holographic feeds displayed Council leaders. They weren't celebrating. They weren't negotiating. They were terrified. Their fleets, their worlds, their authority, all had been dismantled with surgical brutality. And yet humans extended a hand. Kane's voice went across open comms, echoing into every corner of known space. "We are here. We are alive. We are human. And we will not be erased again. Fail to respect that, and there will be no second warning." For the first time in centuries, silence answered him. Then came the subtle, terrifying realization. The SOS that had started this war had not just awakened the dead fleets of humans. It had awakened a mindset. A species that thrived on adversity, that learned from every wound, every loss, every mistake. They were not just survivors. They were predators, and the galaxy had underestimated them at its peril. Across human vessels, survivors, engineers, ex-soldiers, civilians, shared quiet glances. They were exhausted, broken, scarred, yet unified. Humanity had returned from the brink, and no one, not even the Council, would ever forget what it cost to create this moment. Kane turned to Iqbal. "We win, but the galaxy has changed. They'll rebuild, eventually. But we decide the terms. We write the history now, not later. We've taken the first step into the darkness, and survived. That makes us unstoppable." Iqbal nodded. "And Carthos?" He clenched his jaw. "Avenge it? Done. Remember it? Forever." For the first time, Kane allowed himself a small, grim smile. A planet glassed, a species underestimated, a civilization returned from oblivion stronger, smarter, and more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The stars burned cold and indifferent around them, but humanity now had its own fire. A fire forged in revenge, survival, and the unshakable conviction that it would never again be dismissed. Somewhere in the void, a child of Carthos, grown to adulthood among the graveyard belt, looked out from a frigate. "We survived," they whispered. "We're here." And that was the truth that the galaxy would learn to fear. Humanity was no longer a footnote. Humanity was the reckoning. Admiral Kane stared into the dark, the metallic eye reflecting 1,000 dying suns. "Let them remember who we are," he said quietly. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had risen. From ash, from exile, from slaughter. And the echo of their return would haunt the stars forever. The SOS had awakened more than ships. It had awakened the wrath, cunning, and unity of a species the galaxy believed extinct. And the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, understood what it truly meant to underestimate humans. HFY. Humanity unbroken. Humanity feared. Humanity victorious.